Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for taking the time today to join us on this professional learning session. My name is Karen Brooke and my company is Ocean Education and I'm a partner and equity specialist working with DARPL. This session provides you with important information about the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, specifically focusing on its application in culture, heritage and sports organisations. Today, we'll share an introduction to the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, provide an overview of systemic racism in Wales, explain the interconnection between culture, heritage and sport, identify the key culture, heritage and sport ArWAP goals, explore community impact, education, professional learning and awareness raising, take a look at case studies and briefly talk about measuring progress. All our e-learning sessions in this Culture, Heritage and Sports series finishes with a reflective task for you to undertake individually or together with your colleagues. The Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, ArWAP, was originally published in June 2022 with an updated version produced in 2024. It highlighted the deeply rooted racial inequalities experienced by Black, Asian and minority ethnic people in Wales. The plan is built on existing legislation and policies noted on the slide, but it focuses on the realities of institutional and structural racism, emphasising that Black, Asian and minority ethnic people are disproportionately disadvantaged at nearly every level of every system. By acknowledging this uncomfortable truth, the ArWAP urges Wales public, private and third sectors to confront the extensive nature of racial inequalities and recognise the often unintentional disadvantages experienced by certain groups. The ArWAP deliberately sets ambitious actions to achieve, as these actions are anchored in evidence-based practice. The ArWAP aims not to be another race equality plan with good intentions that fails to deliver, but to be an impacting action plan with measurable outcomes that will sustain equitable longevity. We appreciate the challenges around language and terminology, and that it is constantly evolving and there are many terms in use relating to race, racism and ethnicity. We believe racism is a complex system of beliefs, practices and power structures that assigns value and worth to people based on their perceived race, with race being a social construct. It privileges or disadvantages individuals and groups based on skin colour, nationality, culture and/or language. In essence, racism is a system that uses race to justify and maintain unequal power relations. Anti-racism is the active process of identifying, challenging and addressing racism by changing systems, organisational structures, policies and practices and attitudes so that power is redistributed and shared equitably. The use of terms depends on the context in which they're being used, why they're being used and how the decision to use these terms has been agreed to. The National Welsh Government approach uses the term Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals, communities, without abbreviating it to BAME or BME when discussing groups impacted by racism. This includes forms of racism such as discrimination against Romani in brackets Gypsy, Roma and travellers, Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. This terminology was agreed via consultation with community members when co-producing the ArWAP. DARPL does not use the abbreviated terms BAME, which is Black, Asian and minority ethnic, and BME, Black and minority ethnic, because they emphasise certain racialised minority groups of people, in brackets Asian and Black, and exclude others, for example mixed, other and white ethnic groups. BAME terms being used as abbreviations should definitely be avoided, and they have limitations, including firstly, they imply that BAME individuals are a homogeneous group. But BAME was not proposed and is not universally accepted by those who are assumed to fall within it. It others those who do not identify as white and reinforces white as the norm. They can be perceived as convenient labels that are placed on groups of people, rather than identities which people have chosen to identify. They ignore the fact that Black, Asian and other visible ethnic groups in the UK are actually part of a global majority of non-white people. They have a tendency to be perceived as referring to non-white people, which does not consider white ethnic groups. The use of abbreviations BAME and BME terminology can be upsetting. DARPL encourages explorations and discussions around terminology such as global majority and racialised communities or racialised individuals. We encourage you to explore Campbell-Stevens' 2020 work and exploration of the term global majority, and Dr. Deborah Gabriel, founder and director of Black British Academics' use of racialised as a descriptor. To conclude, any terminology used in sessions, policy, practice or materials need to be agreed and introduced in context with care and communicated carefully and consistently throughout delivery and in materials. ArWAP reflects the Welsh Government's firm commitment to building an inclusive and equitable society for all our Black, Asian and minority ethnic people and communities in Wales. It aims to prioritise the lived experiences of ethnic minority people, combine a rights-based approach with openness and transparency. The 2024 Refresh Plan focuses on delivery, including some new actions and timelines, and enhanced roles for lead and delivery partners. This responds to the recommendations from the Equality and Social Justice Committee's inquiry into the implementation of ArWAP. This plan will only succeed if organisations and individuals across Wales work together with Black, Asian and minority ethnic people to listen, respond and proactively deliver on its ambitions. Success looks like Black, Asian and minority ethnic people and communities both seeing and feeling the change we are striving for. We want a Wales free from racism, where everyone has access to equal and equitable opportunities, where everyone feels valued and that they belong, and that systemic injustices are addressed. Wales as a nation has deep-rooted colonial historical racism. This manifests in discriminatory systems and unequal opportunities today. Looking at present experiences, the ArWAP has considered data from surveys and reports to build a picture of the systemic racism in Wales. For example, the Museum Spotlight Survey and Wellbeing of Wales 2023, Ethnicity and Wellbeing Report and 2022 Sport Wales Schools Sports Survey have highlighted many disparities in participation and experiences of racial discrimination. The ArWAP has several focus areas. For this session, we are exploring the focus area culture, heritage and sport. There is an interconnection between culture, heritage and sport, and all have huge societal value and impact. In Wales, they are deeply intertwined. These elements significantly contribute to the formation and expression of Welsh national identity. Sporting events, cultural festivals and historical landmarks all play a role in fostering a sense of belonging and shared experience. Heritage provides the foundation for cultural expression. Traditional music, dance and storytelling are passed down through generations, preserving cultural heritage. Sporting events can also become cultural events with their own rituals and traditions. Culture shapes perceptions and can reinforce stereotypes, so inclusive cultural representation is essential for anti-racist practice. We look at heritage shaping the historical narrative, and this narrative is often reflected in cultural work, sporting traditions, and has informed wider everyday practice. Heritage narratives often focus exclusively on a single racial group's experiences. Decolonising heritage promotes a more accurate history. Culture and sport can bring communities together, fostering social connections with local sports clubs serving as gathering places, strengthening community bonds. Sport has historically unified and separated people. There is a huge amount of work to undertake in the sports sector to move into the anti-racist space. Notably, culture and sport are important vehicles for the promotion and use of the Welsh language. The three elements are interwoven threads in the fabric of Welsh society, each reinforcing and enriching the others. There are 5 key goals and 19 associated actions for the culture, heritage and sports sector in Wales. Let's focus on the goals. Leadership. The goal is to hold publicly funded organisations accountable for the delivery of anti-racist measures and actions. Funding. The goal is to work with our sponsored bodies to ensure that they use their spending powers to embed anti-racist practices, facilitate equality of access and outcomes, and maximise participation for Black, Asian and minority ethnic people. Celebrating diversity. The goal is to support all parts of the society in Wales, to embrace and celebrate its diverse cultural heritage, while understanding and recognising the right to freedom of cultural expression. The historical narrative. To work with public bodies to fully recognise the responsibility, that's individually and collectively, for setting the right historical narrative, promoting and delivering a balanced, authentic and decolonised account of the past, one that recognises both historical injustices and the positive impact of Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. Learning about our cultural diversity. Identify and meet targets to deliver anti-racist education and learning, including interpretation, marketing and educational materials that recognise and celebrate the rich and diverse cultural mix of our society, encouraging widespread physical and intellectual engagement and so promotes anti-racist practice and principle throughout. Each of these goals have actions, and I encourage you to check out the refreshed ArWAP to identify where your organisation aligns. Let's explore how we can achieve inclusive cultural representation. We can provide funding and platforms for artists from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds, including Romani, in brackets gypsies, Roma and travellers, and those who practice Judaism and Islam. We can celebrate and showcase the diverse cultures within Wales, and we can work with media outlets and marketing and communications professionals to promote balanced, authentic and accurate portrayals. Have a look at our culture case studies on the virtual campus CHS library to discover what Welsh organisations have led and the lessons learned. When considering anti-racism in heritage, we can look to the St Fagan's National Museum of History case study of their perspective programmes, where they re-evaluated historical narratives and centred marginalised voices. Perspectives is a beautiful arts programme in which the artists are retelling and reimagining the stories of Welsh objects and history, offering fresh perspectives that challenge preconceptions and bring marginalised narratives to the fore. St Fagans explored whose voices are heard in museums, whose histories are told, and how does exploring the past shape the future of anti-racism. Perspectives examines hidden histories within Wales National Museums, from Welsh planes used to clothe enslaved Africans to the lavish red sofa of Robert Clive, a figure central to British colonialism in India. The programme tackles complex and painful legacies. It rethinks the past to pave the way for a more inclusive future, one that acknowledges the diverse contributions and experiences that have shaped Wales and the world. Their in-depth case study is accessible on the Dartpool virtual campus. In sports in Wales, there are several education-based initiatives, organisations, who are undertaking to move from non-racist to anti-racist. Hockey Cymru, Welsh Athletics and the WRU have worked with Show Race and the Red Card Wales to deliver anti-racism professional learning, which has informed policy and practice changes. Successful implementation of the ArWAP requires genuine partnerships, collaboration and co-production with Black, Asian and minority ethnic people and communities. The North Wales Africa Society has many examples where activities have been tailored to community needs in terms of cultural sensitivity, accessibility, flexibility and addressing root causes. It is vital that communities that are experiencing racism are given the platform to speak for themselves and are heard. That communities are given the support and resources to drive the change that they feel is needed. Education through professional learning and awareness raising campaigns are needed to support the eradication of racism, but this requires moving beyond the why anti-racism to how are we going to achieve this. We encourage you to check out our Welsh organisation case studies of anti-racist practice for an example of inclusive events. Have a look at the Butte Town Carnival case study, where 26 people were employed on the project, aged between 17 and 67, from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. This resulted in increased community pride and a stronger sense of cultural identity in Butte Town. In addition, it had a positive economic impact on the local community through job creation and increased tourism. An example of developing sports inclusivity can be explored with the Lawn Tennis Association's Serves programme, where they developed and implemented 12 new Serves programmes, providing weekly tennis sessions, equipment and coaching. They delivered anti-racism training to 80 leaders from grassroots community organisations and training and qualifications levels 1 and 2 to 18 young people from culturally diverse communities. This has resulted in increased participation in tennis amongst young people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. The training has helped to reflect a more accurate representation of communities within the tennis workforce in Wales and raised awareness of anti-racism within the tennis community. Finally, have a look at Race Council Cymru and UWTSD Swansea College of Arts Anti-Racism Programme. They conducted a SWOT analysis to identify the group's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats related to diversity and inclusion. They updated their recruitment strategy after identifying that 97% of staff members are white. They've developed a plan to advertise open positions on diverse job boards, promote representative imagery on their careers website, and utilise alumni networks to attract a wider pool of candidates. The establishment of the Race Disparity Evidence Unit, RDEU, has been crucial in ensuring the ArWAP work is evidence-based. The unit has worked with External Accountability Group, EAG, members to create a framework for measuring the impact of the plan. The EAG and ethnic minority people are clear what they want to see is a measurable improvement in the lives of ethnic minority people across Wales. The Race Disparity Evidence Unit is developing an impact measurement framework that sets out what needs to be measured to understand whether change is taking place. They'll need to measure at several different levels to ensure we have the evidence to feed identified and developing indicators. An indicator is something that helps provide evidence that a change has happened. It is not the desired change itself. Indicators may be designed to measure desired changes at output, outcome, or impact level. The RDEU will also measure change in the short, medium, and long term. Indicators are numbers-based, and whilst they give valuable information, they do not tell the whole story. They will also collect lived experience. There are different levels of measurement. An output measures focuses on tracking the completion of actions. For example, tracking the number of people attending anti-racism training courses. A short-term outcome measure addresses changes in people's lives and reduction of disparities. For example, increasing the confidence to report racist workplace bullying and harassment. Looking at national long-term well-being measure, the RDEU is utilising established indicators and, importantly, mapping existing data and identifying gaps. They are developing a dashboard to visualise disparities and address gaps via targeted projects. Welsh Government aims to improve the granularity of ethnicity data and sample sizes where lived experience data will be collected to provide qualitative data. To explore the measurement of anti-racism impact in more details, you can access our e-learning session on measuring impact of anti-racist practice on our virtual campus platform. Now you've had a brief overview of the ArWAP in relation to culture, heritage and sport. Take some time to complete this reflective task. We have a worksheet for you to note down your reflections and encourage you to submit these to darpel@cardiffmet.ac.uk to showcase your thoughts and developments. What is the ArWAP and what legislation, policy, lived experiences have underpinned its formation? How are culture, heritage and sport interconnected in the ArWAP? What are the 5 main goal categories for culture, heritage and sport in the ArWAP? What goal or goals are most relevant to your organisation? How many actions link to your relevant goals and how are these actions being approached in your organisations? Which example of anti-race activity supporting the ArWAP will be most appropriate for your organisation to undertake or those that you are already undertaking? Finally, everyone has a role to play in creating a Wales free from racism. We need to work together to achieve this. We have several more learning opportunities in our culture, heritage and sports series. Schedule time to undertake this professional and personal anti-racist learning.